Leo walked alone through the crowded city street as screens around him flashed endless colors of advertisements and offers from companies, trying to grab every human second they could. His jacket was worn and his boots made a soft sound against the sidewalk. The world around him was loud and fast, but Leo moved through it quietly. His eyes were tired from looking at machines and faces that never looked back. This city never stopped moving and never gave anyone time to breathe. When he reached his small apartment on the 43rd floor of Tower B2, he unlocked the door with a scan of his hand. Inside it was quiet and gray like it always was. The only light came from the soft blue hue of the wall screen, which showed news he never watched. Leo lived alone in this apartment for 5 years and spoke to very few people. His job was remote and his friends had slowly stopped calling. Maybe they just got tired of waiting for him to say more than 3 words one evening. As he sat with a hot cup of tea in one hand and his worn-out tablet in the other, he saw an ad pop up that he had never seen before. It showed a silver cube turning into a pet. The words on the screen read Intelligent Companion Life Unit, now 60% off, direct ship with no identity tag required. He raised an eyebrow. The ad said it was a limited time offer and included things like emotion response learning, voice mimic, and full movement capability. Leo did not usually fall for ads, but something about this one made him stop scrolling. Maybe he was tired of the silence. Maybe he wanted something to take care of. Not a dog, not a cat, not a real pet, but not just a machine either. Something in between. He tapped the order button and confirmed the payment. Delivery in 2 days. When the box arrived, it was not silver like in the ad. It was darkened metal with rough edges. There were no labels or company symbols. It looked more like a crate from a shipping dock than a package for home delivery. Leo tilted his head and checked the delivery code again. It matched. He touched the top panel and it unlocked with a faint click inside. He expected to see a curled-up smart pet with blinking lights and polished limbs. What he saw instead made him freeze. A young girl, maybe 16 or 17, was lying inside. Her skin had a pale silver glow, and thin lines of blue shimmer ran across her arms like moving rivers. Her hair was white with a strange glow, and her eyes were closed but twitched like she was dreaming. Leo stepped back without knowing why. His heart beat faster. He looked around the room, even though he was alone. He whispered a question into the air, hoping it was some kind of robot, but the girl did not move. He slowly reached into the crate and felt her skin. It was warm. Suddenly, her eyes opened. They were bright and silver like liquid metal. She looked at Leo without blinking and sat up slowly, like she was trying to remember where she was. Leo stepped back and held up both hands. He said he was not going to hurt her. She tilted her head. No words. Only quiet breathing. She looked around the room slowly, then at herself, then back at him. Her fingers touched the edge of the crate, then touched the floor, then the air, then her own arm, as if checking if she was real. Leo tried again. He asked if she understood him. She did not answer, but he saw a flicker in her eyes like she was trying to find the words. She pointed at herself, then at him, then raised her hand and placed it over her heart. Leo stared, then said the word me, then pointed to himself and said Leo. She repeated after a few tries. Leo then tapped her own chest and said Aya. The name was soft and strange, but he accepted it. Aya. Leo offered her a blanket and helped her stand. She moved slowly and carefully, like her body was still learning how to move. She did not speak more, but followed him quietly around the apartment. She touched the light switch and watched the lamp turn on. She looked at the tablet screen and pressed random icons. Everything made her curious. Leo tried to ask her questions, but she only stared and sometimes repeated simple words. He showed her water, and she drank it with both hands like she was unsure how it worked. He gave her food, and she tasted it like she had never eaten before. Her eyes sparkled every time she discovered something new. That night she slept on the couch, and Leo sat nearby wondering what he had brought into his home. He searched the package again. No return address, no serial code, no instruction manual. Just her. He thought about calling someone but stopped. He did not trust the corporations in this city. If they found her, they would take her and lock her in a lab. That was the kind of world this was. A world where people were not safe and secrets were taken apart piece by piece. In the middle of the night, the lights in the apartment flickered. Screens blinked and the tablet rebooted itself without reason. Aya was still asleep, or at least she seemed asleep. The lines on her skin glowed faint blue, as if reacting to something in the air. Leo whispered to himself that maybe she was not a robot. Maybe not even from this world. He looked at her sleeping on the couch with her hands folded and her face calm, like she was finally safe. Somehow, without understanding why, Leo knew his life had already changed. The morning sun crept through the window blinds as the light touched the edge of the couch where Aya still rested. Her breathing was calm, and even her hands now relaxed at her sides. Leo stood in the kitchen holding a cup of hot tea, unsure whether to wake her or let her sleep. He stared at her, not with fear this time, but with quiet wonder. All around the room, things had changed. The tablet on the table refused to boot up. The smart fridge kept blinking strange codes across its screen. The lights in the hallway had turned dim blue during the night and stayed that way. Leo knew all of this started when she arrived. Machines behaved differently around her, as if her presence confused them or spoke to them in a way humans could not understand. When Aya finally opened her eyes, she sat up and looked around. Her eyes showed no panic, only slow, quiet curiosity. She placed both feet on the ground and stood carefully. She moved to the window and placed her hand against the glass, looking out over the tall gray buildings that stretched across the sky like walls. She watched small cargo drones fly between towers with flashing lights. She watched people walking like tiny dots far below. Leo stood beside her and pointed to the sky, then said the word city. She repeated it slowly, like she was tasting the word itself. City. She looked again with a quiet breath that almost sounded like sadness. Leo tried to speak to her more. He opened a basic language app on his backup device and pointed to words. Aya copied the sounds quickly. She was a fast learner. After a few hours, she could speak simple words and form basic questions. She asked, "What is this? Who are you? Where am I?" Leo answered as best he could. He said his name again. Said this was Earth. Said she came in a box he ordered online. Aya looked confused when he said the word box, but nodded slowly. Then she touched her temple as if trying to pull memory from a locked space inside her mind. Later that day, Leo showed her how to turn on the television. She watched a nature channel with wide eyes. Trees, rivers, animals, all new to her. She pointed at birds on the screen and asked name. Leo smiled and said birds. She said birds again softly. Aya walked through each corner of the apartment as if mapping every inch. She touched books on the shelf. She smelled a flower he had in a glass pot. She placed her hand on the wall and closed her eyes for a long moment. Leo watched and noticed that when her hand touched the surface, the wall screen flickered again. He said nothing. At night, Aya did not sleep right away. She sat on the floor near the window and stared at the stars. Leo joined her after a while. They said nothing for a long time. The silence felt full, not empty. After a moment, Aya spoke in a soft voice. She said, "I remember light. I remember fear. I remember running." Leo turned his head toward her. He waited. She touched her wrist where a small patch of glowing blue shimmered under the skin. She said, "They came with weapons. They wanted to keep us. They called us energy vessels. They wanted to drain us." Leo felt cold hearing those words. He asked who were they. Aya said men in white suits with glass faces and cold voices. She said she ran through a door that led to a dark room full of machines. She found a crate that felt safe. She climbed inside and closed it. She said she thought it would hide her. She thought they would not find her there. Leo now understood. She had been smuggled or shipped by mistake, not a product, not a machine. A living being running from people who wanted to use her for something dark. He asked her name again, and she said Aya. But then she said another word in a strange tone. A word that sounded like music and electricity. She said that was her true name, but humans would not understand it. Aya was easier that night while Aya slept again. Leo connected his device to a private channel and searched the hidden network known as GrayNet, a place where off-grid tech workers and truth-seekers posted secret information. He typed in strange crate glowing girl, smart pet malfunction. He found a single thread buried deep. It warned users to avoid illegal imports marked with a strange triangle symbol that meant for Earth use. It mentioned a corporation with no public face known as Virex Systems. Rumors said Virex was not only building advanced machines, but also working with captured life forms out of this planet. Leo leaned back in his chair. His breath came slow. His fingers to the edge of the screen. He looked at Aya sleeping once more, curled in a blanket on the couch. Her hand twitched slightly as if dreaming. She looked peaceful here. Not like someone running. Not like someone in danger. But Leo knew peace like this would not last. In the early hours before sunrise, the building trembled slightly. Only for a second. The lights flickered. The wall screen turned black. Then one message appeared in bold white text. Across the middle of the screen, unit registered outside zone. Please return to base for scanning. Leo felt his chest tighten. He looked at Aya. She had not moved yet. He quickly unplugged the wall screen and shut down the backup systems. He walked to her and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Her eyes opened at once. He whispered, "We need to talk." The air inside the apartment felt strange, as if it carried a weight that could not be seen. Leo moved quickly from one room to the next, checking doors, windows, devices. He pulled the curtains down and powered off every smart screen. Even the lights were disconnected. Aya followed him without speaking, but her eyes held worry. She could sense the change. Leo sat beside her on the couch and told her everything he had seen. The warning message, the flicker, the building shaking. Aya listened in silence. Then she touched her wrist, and a soft blue circle appeared above her palm. She moved her fingers in the air, and strange symbols danced like fire without heat. Leo had never seen writing like that. She said the signal came from Virex watchers. She said they searched for anything not tagged by their system. She said the moment she arrived here, they would start tracking energy patterns. She had hoped the apartment would block her signals, but now they found her trail. Leo asked how long before they came. Aya looked toward the ceiling as if listening to something far away. She said not long. Maybe days, maybe hours. He asked why they wanted her. She said her body stored more energy than human machines. Her kind were made for travel between stars. They were peaceful. They shared energy with the places they visited. But Virex did not want peace. They wanted control. Aya walked to the center of the room and closed her eyes. Her hands began to glow faint blue. The table shook slightly. The air felt cold. Then it passed. She opened her eyes and said she scanned the city. Virex drones had already entered the outer zones. She said they searched one building at a time. Leo's tower was not far from their path. Leo stood still for a long moment. He looked at the floor, then at her. He asked where she could go. She said nowhere alone. She did not know how to leave the city. She said only humans could move through checkpoints freely. She said maybe someone else could help, but she did not know who. Leo opened a drawer and pulled out an old device from the bottom. A small round unit used years ago for underground tech channels. He powered it up and sent a message to an old friend, a fixer, someone who owed Leo a favor from long ago. He typed a single line: need safe route, need off-grid, no scans. Then he waited while the message traveled through quiet frequencies. Leo looked at Aya. She sat near the window again, but did not stare at the sky this time. She looked at her own hands like she was trying to understand who she was. She asked Leo why he helped her. He said he did not like seeing someone hunted. He said he knew the feeling of being alone. Aya smiled for the first time since she arrived. It was a soft smile. Not one of joy, but one of understanding. That evening the unit blinked once. A voice came through with no name. The voice said, "Meet at lower track 9 under bridge sector C, 1 hour only. No repeats, bring nothing with signal." Leo packed quickly. One old backpack, 2 bottles of water, a wrapped sandwich, an old city map, a jacket for Aya, a power shield device he had repaired last year but never used. They dressed in dark colors and left through the back stairwell. The city at night was full of lights but also full of shadows. They moved like ghosts through alleys and quiet corners. Drones floated above, but their sensors did not pick up the energy from Aya anymore. She kept her glow hidden. She controlled it like a candle behind glass. When they reached the underpass, the space was empty and silent. Tracks for old cargo trains ran along the bottom. Pipes dripped cold water. Steel beams stretched like bones in the dark. A man stepped out from behind a pillar. He wore a mask, but his voice sounded familiar. He looked at Leo, then at Aya. He said nothing for a while. Then he handed Leo a small card and pointed to a door at the far end of the tunnel. The card opened a lift hidden in the wall. It would take them below the city to an old station no longer on the maps. From there someone would help them move to the outer zone. Maybe even out of the sector entirely. Aya stepped forward and bowed slightly. The man nodded. Then he turned and vanished into the shadows again. Inside the lift, the air smelled of rust and metal. The card worked and the doors closed. They began to descend. The sound of gears echoed around them. Aya looked at the lights along the wall and asked if he trusted the man. Leo said he trusted him enough to take this chance. They reached the bottom. The doors opened to a long hallway filled with silence. Lights flickered weakly. Machines lay broken along the edges. Aya touched one gently, and it blinked for a moment before going dark again. At the end of the hall was a gate. Behind the gate stood 3 people, one older woman with sharp eyes, one tall man with tools on his belt, one girl with grease on her face and wires in her hands. They looked at Leo and Aya. The woman stepped forward and asked what they brought with them. Leo said truth and danger. The woman raised one eyebrow. Then she opened the gate. Aya looked at Leo. He nodded. She stepped through whatever waited beyond. That gate would be better than what followed from behind. As the gate closed behind them, the air changed. The hallway ended and opened into a large chamber under the city. It was cold and quiet, but not empty. Screens hung from the ceiling showing security footage from places Leo did not recognize. Cables ran along the floor like vines. Metal shelves lined the walls filled with tools, broken bots, stolen tech, and old maps of the sector. Woman who led them inside moved with purpose. Her voice was firm, but not cruel. She asked Leo who the girl was. He said her name was Aya. He said she needed help. The woman said they did not shelter strangers without cause. She asked again what was Aya. Stepped forward and lifted her hand. She opened her palm and let a soft glow rise from her skin. It formed a shape in the air, a spinning sphere surrounded by floating symbols. The air grew warmer. The machines nearby began to blink and buzz. The others in the room stepped back in. Silence. Aya said she was from a place far beyond human travel. She said her kind were not fighters but explorers who shared knowledge and helped broken worlds heal. She said she was taken by Virex during a travel stop. She escaped before they could drain her core. The older woman nodded slowly. She said Virex had taken others before. She said they moved in the shadows and erased anyone who spoke against them. The resistance did not have power to fight them directly, but they helped those who slipped through the cracks. Leo asked if there was a way to get Aya beyond the sector. The tall man stepped forward and said there was one route left. A tunnel system. used by old cargo trains that connected to a hidden launch dock near the outer ridge. The dock was buried and forgotten but still working. The trip would be dangerous. The tunnels were dark and watched by Virex scanners. One mistake and they would be caught. Aya looked at Leo. He said they would take the risk. The older woman handed Leo a small device that would block tracking signals for a short time. She warned that once activated they had 6 hours to reach the launch dock, no more. No second chance. They left that night before the city lights could rise again. The tunnel entrance was deep below the storage room, behind a sealed door covered in dust. The tall man opened it with an old code. Aya and Leo stepped inside, followed by the girl with wires in her hands. She was sent to guide them. Her name was Mara. Inside the tunnel, the air was thick and smelled of oil and stone. The walls were covered in old markings from years before. The rail path was cracked, but still held the weight of their steps. As they moved deeper, the light behind them faded, and only their handheld lamps kept the dark away. Mara moved fast with confidence. She knew every twist and turn. She told Leo to walk quietly and never stop moving. She told Aya to keep her glow hidden as long as possible. Machines listened even when they did not move. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the sound of their steps. Then came the hum. A soft sound filled the tunnel. It came from above and ahead. Mara whispered that the scouts were near. Drones sent by Virex to sweep the deeper paths. She motioned for them to hide. They crouched behind broken crates and shut off the lamps. The humming grew louder, then passed. A metal shape flew overhead, flashing red sensors. It did not stop. It did not see them. They waited until the sound faded, then kept walking. Leo's legs burned. His mind raced. He wanted to reach the dock, but also feared what waited there. Aya walked beside him in silence, her eyes steady, her breath calm. She did not complain. She did not slow down as they neared the final section of the tunnel. Mara stopped. She said the next area was unstable. The roof had collapsed long ago. They would need to move through fast before the sensors above caught their movement. Aya touched the stone wall and closed her eyes. The wall pulsed softly, then cracked open a narrow path through the rubble. Mara stared in shock. Leo did not ask how. He just nodded and kept going. When they reached the dock, the space opened wide around them. Rusted platforms, old ship parts, broken crates scattered across the floor. In the center stood a ship, small but whole, covered in dust but humming with power. A gift from the past, still waiting to fly. Aya stepped toward the ship. The lights on its side flickered and turned green. The ship knew her. It recognized her touch. Mara said it would fly, but the launch required a charge burst. Only Aya could give that. But it would drain her. It would weaken her for days, maybe longer. Leo said they would wait. Aya said no. She said if they waited, Virex would arrive. She had seen their movement. Drones were closing in. She could feel the signal. She walked to the platform and placed both hands on the core gate. Her eyes closed. Her body glowed brighter than before. The floor trembled. The ship powered up. The launch doors above creaked open, showing a dark sky filled with clouds. Suddenly a sound echoed from the tunnel behind them. Boots, drones, voices. Virex had arrived. Mara ran to the side and activated the last gate lock. She yelled for Leo to board the ship. Leo looked at Aya. She was weak now, her glow fading. He grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the ship. She stumbled but smiled. She said thank you in a voice softer than wind. They entered the ship. The gate sealed. The engines roared. The dock shook. Metal tore from the ground as the ship lifted. Fire burst from the thrusters. The sky above opened wider. Virex drones stormed the platform too late. The ship rose higher and vanished into the clouds. The ship rose through thick layers of smoke and cloud, carrying both silence and fire behind it. Inside the cabin, Leo held Aya close as her eyes fluttered between light and dim. Her body no longer glowed, and her arms rested weakly on her lap. She whispered that she was fine, but Leo could see her strength was low. The energy she gave to the ship had drained her. Above them, stars slowly began to show. The ship broke through the last of the atmosphere and entered the edge of space. The view outside was quiet and endless. Distant lights stretched across the dark like threads made of time. Aya opened her eyes and looked at the stars. She smiled and whispered the word home. Leo turned to the controls. The ship responded to his movements as if guided by more than machines. The interface had no standard commands, but it reacted to his thoughts. It understood basic human desire. It followed paths written not in code, but in intention. Aya said the ship was made to connect with minds, not with wires. A small screen lit up showing coordinates unknown to Earth systems. Aya explained that it was a beacon sent by her people long ago. The ship now followed that path. Somewhere beyond the stars her kind waited. Not many, not in cities. Just quiet lights across the sky, hiding and surviving after Virex took so many. Leo asked if they would be safe. Aya said her people did not believe in war. They built no weapons. They believed in light and healing and connection. She said they would accept her return. And maybe accept him too. Time passed in strange silence as the ship crossed layers of space. There was no clock, no calendar, only the slow drift of stars outside the window. Leo shared stories with Aya during the quiet. Stories of Earth, of books he liked, of places he once wanted to visit. She listened with calm eyes, sometimes closing them, as if painting those images in her own mind. She spoke of her home too. A world made of soft skies and crystal seas. A place where light had taste and sounds had shape. She told him how her people never forgot even a single feeling. Every joy, every sorrow was remembered and passed to others through song and memory. One day the ship slowed. A signal filled the cabin. Not a sound, but a feeling like warmth on the skin. A shape appeared outside the window. A large sphere floating in darkness, surrounded by a soft glow. It pulsed with color, not bright, not sharp, but deep and alive. Placed her hand on the glass. She whispered that they found it. Her voice was steady now. Her energy was returning slowly. The ship moved toward the glowing sphere. A new shape emerged from the side. Another vessel similar in design, but older. It moved slowly beside them. A voice filled the cabin. Not from speakers, not from devices. It came through the air like a thought gently placed in the heart. The voice welcomed Aya by name and asked if she was whole. She answered yes and said she brought someone with her. A human who helped her when she had no power, no direction, no way. Home, the voice responded with peace. It said the human would be honored. It said there was space for him if he wished to stay. Aya looked at Leo and waited. Leo stared at the stars. He thought of his small apartment, his empty city, his long quiet days filled with silence that no screen could break. He thought of machines that only listened when commanded and people who forgot how to care. Then he looked at Aya. She was not from his world, but she had filled it with something that had been missing for years. He nodded once. That was enough. The ship entered the glowing sphere. Inside was not a city, but a garden floating in space. Trees with soft leaves grew on platforms of stone that drifted slowly in the air. Water flowed upward and downward without gravity. Light danced across the sky like falling stars in reverse. Aya stepped out of the ship first. Her feet touched the ground like it knew her. The energy in her body grew brighter. Other beings came to greet her, tall with eyes like deep water. They did not speak with words. They touched her hand and shared what they felt. Joy, pain, memory, hope. Leo followed, unsure of what to do, but no one pushed him away. One of the beings came to him and placed a small crystal in his palm. It glowed with a soft color that shifted like sunrise. The being nodded once, then stepped back. Aya said the crystal was a gift. A way to speak across stars if ever needed. Time passed in a new way. Days not counted by clocks, but by feeling. Leo walked through gardens without names. He spoke to beings without mouths. He learned to listen in ways he never imagined. He built a place of his own near a small stream that sang without sound. Aya visited him often. They shared stories not for escape but for memory. Each story became part of the garden. A flower, a breeze, a shimmer in the water one day, Aya came with news. A signal had reached one of the outer paths. A voice from Earth calling into the void. Leo knew what it meant. He walked to the edge of the platform and looked out into the stars. He knew Earth was still out there, still broken, still full of people. Waiting for something they could not name, he did not speak. He only opened his hand and looked at the crystal. It glowed softly. The stars did not blink. They watched in silence, but Leo no longer felt alone. The end.